business? How's soccer?
It's busy. Love it.
How many teams do you have right now?
I have two.
You have two?
I
The
have
2010s?
2008 RL and 2010, 2008 RL.
How do you like that 08 group? It's pretty good.
I love both groups. I
Yeah.
really do. It's
Oh, the 10s. Both of those age groups as a whole are just so strong.
yeah, and you look at it and it's like I had the 3s, 4s, 6, 8s, 10s, and again I should say it's every other year, right? And I feel like for some reason in our club all of the even years teams are super strong, first and second.
Yep. And then the 7s, 9s.
Yeah, they're just not as deep.
Yeah.
You know, you still have individual really talented kids, but you're just not as deep, 40 deep.
Right.
So I don't know what it is about the even years, but you know, I've been lucky in that regard, I guess. But it's been crazy to see the change in player from the second that are playing on second teams now versus, you know, my first year on the girls' side.
Mm-hmm.
You know, again, I think the idea, you know, kind of Rob and I together were like, you know, we really got to get this, you know, the second teams up to par, so to speak, because there was such a gap between first and second team.
Right.
And it was, I think we kind of started a thing focusing on all the details and how to get the kids up to the next level, but it was also about recruiting and getting the kids in here. You know, if you looked at the teams, it was the top teams were, you know, Syracuse, Binghamton, Buffalo, Rochester.
Yeah.
And then the second teams were all Buffalo kids for the most part. Not all, but I'd say there were a couple Rochester kids.
Yeah.
And it was like, you know, how can we get that next tier of kid here? Because they'd say I'd rather play for, you know, SDA or Rochester's first team or even, you know, Empire's first team over, you know, yours. Or and again, I don't begrudge kids. The kids make decisions for a million different reasons, and
right.
And you have to put the product out for them to want to come. You know what I mean? And I think that was the difficult thing, and I think it's proven over the last couple of years how important the playing in the ECNL RL is. I mean, it's all about platform these days. I joke around. I mean, my biggest recruiting tool is I ask people if they know who Kelly Clarkson is, and they look at me crazy, and they're like, "Yeah, of course." Well, she was the best singer on American Idol. She was not the best singer in the country. She's from a town of like 200 people. If you think she was the best singer in the country, you're crazy. Yeah. But she was the best kid on that American. She was on that platform. She was the best singer that year. And all that did was give her a foot in the door and an opportunity on a national stage. And she took it and ran with it, right? And that's what the ECNL is we have the platform where we are putting our kids in front of more college coaches. I don't call anyone. I show up to a game in Florida and there's 100 coaches around the field.
Exactly.
It's not because I was a great coach or we're a better club than the kid, you know. And I always tell people, I'm like, listen, you can go play for X, Y, and Z. Mm-hmm. And at the end of the day, no matter how good you are, all of my kids are going to have an opportunity at college because of the platform that we're on. You know, I don't sugarcoat it. I don't say like, oh my God, we're the greatest thing in the world or I'm the greatest coach, or it's about understanding the dynamic of what, you know, soccer recruiting is these days.
What did you text me? Because we talked about Rosie's episode because Rosie was with you.
Yeah.
And I wanted to share her story because there's younger parents and younger kids in the club, and they think that moving from a Flash ECNL to Flash RL is almost like a death sentence. And I'm like, guys, it's like RL is not a death sentence. And in fact, I think that. Hey guys, thanks for watching this episode of the I Hate Soccer podcast. If you feel stuck in your recruiting process, we created a guide that includes feedback from 15 college coaches and 10 current college soccer players. Inside this guide, you'll find out what really works in recruiting, from showcases, ID camps, highlight reels, and more. Check it out at playmakertraining.com/recruited. It's the second best option in all of Western New York, for the most part.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe there's a one-off team that's really strong at RNY, but do you want to spend your life in a car?
And that's the thing too and I don't know what their platform looks like in the GA. But when I'm going to, I'll give you a great example, and this just goes to show you how incredible the ECNL has been. That 06 team, who, I mean, we can talk about that. I think I bragged to everyone about the 06 team and how incredible that process was for me. And, you know, it really showed that we're doing things the right way, their growth. But during recruiting year, we went down to Florida or Orlando, and day 2, we were playing Gwinnett, who was 16-0, won the Southeast Conference, undefeated. They hadn't lost a game all year. I think they were like 21-0. And we get to the game, and I think there had to be 120 colleges around the field. They weren't looking at us. You know what I mean?
Right, but how many girls, like even in that situation, some of your girls could show out, and then all these coaches are like, "Oh, who's this girl?"
We smacked them 3-0.
Boom.
I mean, the emails that I started getting on that Monday and Tuesday were, you know, and it changed the story of that 06 group. Not necessarily, you know, it gave more opportunity, and these kids got, you know, maybe a different taste of what it looked like. You know what I mean? But I mean, if I don't care if I bring out my phone. I actually have. So like all like the commitment things, and just go to show you this is, if I take and I say, you know, the 2003 college commitments for the first team that I had, we had 7 out of 18.
Okay. Went
to college.
Yep.
So 1 went D1.
Yep.
3 went D3.
Yep.
3 went D2.
Okay.
2. So the second year that I had with the 04s, 18 of the 24 committed. 1 went D1, 9 went D2, and 8 went D3.
Who's the one that went D1 out of the 04s?
Out of the 04s, Kelsey at goalie at Niagara.
Yeah.
And there's actually a girl that was on that team that went to a JUCO, and she just reached out to me. She just signed at Colorado College from a JUCO.
Really?
So
who was that?
Her name was Eden. She was from Erie.
Okay.
So I mean, it's funny. Like, even though she went JUCO for a couple of years in I think Iowa.
We'll get into it because I want to come back to the JUCO stuff, because I want to know about the rule changes, because I'm sure you know more than I do about all the rule changes and stuff about the JUCO stuff.
Well, I know I've heard from different college stuff, but so then the 06s.
Yeah, go to the 06s.
We had 19 of the 24.
Yeah, right.
So 4 of them are D1, 4 D2, and 11 D3. So you have, 4 that went D1, and you have 4 D2, and they're solid schools. And listen, there were girls that went D3. There were girls that went for school, that had offers. So I mean, you know, those 5 girls chose not to.
Right.
Like, you know, one of our best players, the girl that I had a ton of respect for, and I, you know, thought she was incredible, and never got the attention I felt she deserved, but she went to RPI, which is, she wanted to go for engineering. It's one of the top 20 engineering schools in the country. Could that girl have gone, you know, to a D1 level school? Absolutely. Could she have maybe not played for 4 years? You know, it's that fight, that battle, and that's what it's about, the education of it. So I kind of help all the girls with, I create like an initial list for them.
Okay.
So I asked them, and I've been doing this since that first 02-03 team, but I got them their senior year, so it was kind of almost to the end of their recruiting process. But through private training and helping kids for 15, 20 years now, the 5 things that I was like, okay, these are what these girls are and boys are choosing college based on, and that is education, financial, the location of the school, the success of the program, and their playing time. So I always tell the kids, I said, listen, put them in order for me, 1 to 5.
What's most important?
If we're great, we're going to try to get you 3 of them. You're probably going to get 2. There's no Harvard that's on a beach in Miami that's free, where you start for 4 years and win 4 national championships. It's not happening. So then you go to the kid and they put it in order, and every kid, usually when the kid did it, because financial's just thrown down at 5th.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, so you can spend $79,000 a year. Oh, whoa, no. And then you're like, okay, well, then. So I always say to the kid, I say, okay, you have to be willing to give something up, right? So the kid that says, I want playing time, and then writes from the second team, writes Clemson. Okay, well, so then I try to hold them accountable. So then I ask for their major, whatever their major is, and their major is, let's say, psychology. So I have one of the apps, and you pay like $300 a year, $250. I don't even know what it is anymore. It's just automatic. But I put their major in. It'll kick out 1,600 schools.
Right.
And then for every one of my kids on my team, it takes like 30, 40 hours probably, sometimes depending on situation. But I go school by school. And I say, okay, listen, can I get the top 3? And I try to build out like 10D1, 5D2, and 10D3. And then when we talk about a lot of the stuff, a lot of the conference have very reciprocating type schools. And the example I tend to use a lot is there was a girl at one point who loved Bonaventure a couple of years ago and was looking at it, but she didn't want to be in Buffalo. I was like, okay, so just pull up the thing. She's like, well, I want to be in the South. Okay, well, let's look at Davidson. Right? Yeah. Same makeup of school, same size, same major, same soccer's around the same, right? They're not beating someone 12-0 in their conference.
Right.
So can we just take this and alternate and move it into a different location? And she applied there and liked it. And so again, it's the education process. So I do that in the summer going into their junior year for all of my kids.
So the 08s are going through that right now.
Yeah. So I did that all this summer. I stay up a lot of nights, and I just work and kind of put it together because the kids all I know Ohio State, okay, I know Notre Dame. Well, I hate to tell you, but they're probably maybe talking to our top 1 or 2 kids
on the ECNL, team.
Right. So that's fine if you're going for education alone. You know what I mean? There's one girl from the 2006 team who she was a tremendous player. She went to Notre Dame. And the club team is ridiculous there. You know, she chose education. She's like, they're all ECNL girls.
They're all ECNL girls.
So that's where I think that it's about the education in these kids, and they find my sneaky good school that I love to send kids to is Trinity in Texas.
Okay.
I've sent.
That's Clara.
So Clara.
Yeah.
There was a girl before that, Hannah. And there was a girl before that who went there from Grand Island, is where I originally heard about the school and started looking more into it. Educationally, they're unbelievable, especially in the medical field. They're top 10 every year. They go through the NCAAs every year. The guy is a great guy, and it's just been like trying to get every kid that like goes that they're like, I don't want to come back. Clara's like, I don't want to come back. Like talking to those, the original girl from Grand Island, she moved down there. She lives down there. And like, it's just kind of cool to see these kids say, hey, I want to go play and I want to get a good education at the same time.
Right.
And even like Clara, she was talking with Davidson at the time. Right. So you're talking to D1, right. And then she went down to Trinity. The guy messaged me back. She flew down here. She did a thing. We love her. She scored the game winner in the championship league championship game last year. I think she had an assist this year in it to go on to NCAAs, and it's one of those things. They experience it for 4 years, you know. So that's kind of where I try to step in. And again, ultimately it's the kid's decision. If the kid wants to go and push themselves and say, there's one kid I trained that, went to a big time D1 school, and I was like, good luck. And she didn't play for 4 years. And to her, that was fine. She just wanted to go to the best school that she could.
Yep.
And she trained for 4 years and worked her butt off and enjoyed the experience in a different way. I'm not here to tell a kid how they should spend the next 4 years. I just try to hold them accountable when they say, oh, success of the program has to be number 2. And then you're looking at a school that's 3-13 over the last, 4 years in a row.
Right.
You can't have, that. Or, all of a sudden I get a list and they're like, well, we like these 10 schools and they're all in Florida. But you said location was 5th. It didn't matter to you. Do you know what I mean? So it's just trying to hold them accountable to because emotionally these kids, they're 16, 17 years old trying to make decisions of things they know nothing about. So it's tough. So they oh my God, someone showed me interest. And all of a sudden I want to go there. Okay, well, did you see this is, in North Dakota?
Yeah, calm
down. Your first thing is, and by the way, it's $1,000 a year, and financial was 1 and location was 2 for you. You know what I mean? It's just saying, hey, can we look at this from a different light? You know what I mean? So that's kind of how I try to do it with them. And then it's kind of to each their own. They work their lists. I recommend that they set up spreadsheets, and I try to communicate with them, kind of what's going on. Some are very open to it. Some aren't.
Yeah.
Some want help. Some kind of want to do it on their own. So I'm just there to lend a hand if they need it. And some find their own paths, and some find their, in different ways. So
do you find, how do you deal with the D1 or bust mentality? Like how do you communicate to them that, dude, the D2 is really good at really high level. So is D3.
I try to talk about my experience because I had, when I was growing up, I had, all these D1 opportunities. I broke my foot my senior year.
Okay.
So I ended up going to my safety school, which was Brockport.
Mm-hmm.
And after 2 years there, it was like, you're playing, we were 8th in the country. We broke, I think, 14 school records. And the winning was awesome, but I was I D1, like, you know what I mean? So I transferred to Canisius, and the D3 guys, we were like brothers, right? We lifted in the morning together. We had a 2-hour period in between. We went to the team locker room. We were watching film. We were playing wall ball in the team room. Like, we'd stay after practice for an hour and a half, and at Canisius, it was like by game 4, you can't make the playoffs anymore. Guys are partying, they're coming, right when practice starts, leaving right when it ends. You go to the gym to lift, and there's no one else going and lifting. There's no camaraderie. It was more, more individual. I can't explain it, but for me, it was 2 years of, we know we're going to lose. We stink. We're not going to win. It's nothing. It was nothing personal. It was just, we just weren't good enough. And they seem to take that for granted, those kids that I played with at Canisius a lot, is like, it was, they deserve to be there almost, whereas like the D3 kids work their butts off, you know what I mean? And I hate to say it like that, because it wasn't all like that,
Right.
But that was seemingly the experience. And I always say, I would have given everything to have stayed at Brockport. I would have done everything to stay at Brockport. The winning, the fun, the family, the experience, we were my family's friends with, family. Like, I still hang, Canisius guys, I mean, I still talk to some of them, like Dan Panaro and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And, but I was friends with him from 10 years old, you
right.
know what I mean? Playing with each other on the same team from 12 to, through Canisius. And, but the guys that I played on the Brockport team, there's 2 of them I talk with, monthly.
Yeah.
And it's funny because like the one, his niece went through Flash, his nephew went through Flash, and those guys I'm real close with, and I talk to and I see, and but because you built that, and at the end of the day, right, this game is preparing us for life, and also at the same time, your memories are going to be more off the field than on the field.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Every time we joke about things, even, like in Canada or, playing at Brockport or whatever, or even high school, I feel like 90% of the conversations are not, hey, remember when we won that game 2-1? It's, hey, you remember that one day in the locker room when we were doing, you're messing around doing something and something broke or someone yelled at you. It's silly things like that actually are more of the memories that I think you pull from it. So it's just setting you up for life and experience. And if you can have that camaraderie and the experience of in college, for me, I don't think there's anything else like it. So
does anybody else at Flash do that algorithm, that app that you do?
I don't know, to be honest with you. I don't really.
Last time we met up, you were talking about that app, and for some reason I thought you developed that or something.
No, so there's a free one online. It's called Nietzsche.
Okay.
But I used that before, and the problem is they're not as up to date as the one that I use. So if I put in like women's soccer, it may kick out 5 schools that don't have women's soccer anymore, and then I'm giving the kid the list. So I even with the one that I pay for, that's supposed to be up to date year to year, I still say to the kid, hey, listen, make sure they have the major, make sure they have the, the women's soccer, because that changes in a heartbeat. You know what I mean? Make sure it's still D1. It says D1 on here, but maybe they're D3, or maybe it says D2, but they're actually D1 now. So like those things are really important for them to navigate that process. It's just kind of a tool of kind of getting them started, because listen, these kids are 16 years old. They don't know what they want to be. They just know they want to play soccer, right? For the most part.
Yep.
And, some kids, don't get me wrong, some kids are I'm going to be this, I'm going to do this. But it's overwhelming when you look up 4,500 schools, 3,300 of them have women's soccer. Where do you start? Because the only ones that you know are the ones that you don't have a chance at.
Right, and that's
what I mean?
That's the problem that a lot of parents that come in here, they don't realize how big college soccer is, especially at the D3 level. There's 400 programs.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah, I think there's 333 D1. I think it's like 215 D2. And I think like 450, 460. So there's about 1,000 programs ish. So and you add in JUCO, and you add in and I think that's what, even when I look back at that first 2002 2003 team, and I think the decisions why a lot of them didn't sign was the preparation going into it. I think a lot of those, because a lot of them had D3 offers,
right?
They're like, I'm not playing D3 soccer. You know what I mean? And that was, I think, years and years ago. I think kids put on a Flash jersey and they were like, oh, I'm going D1 on scholarship. And I think when you were on the second team back then, it was like, oh, maybe that's not a possibility, And I think kids now, trying to educate them in 9th, 10th, 11th, if they're on the, on the RL team, that, hey, like, this pathway is the same. College is, 94, 95% if you want it to be. It's just not looking like what you may have thought it was. It's not the Florida States and the UNCs and the, it's Penn State Barron and, outside of Erie there, or outside of Pittsburgh there. But so I think they just have to understand that, first of all, there's only so many spots, right? So there are, I think I put it all together at one point, but the largest recruiting classes were around 10, which were teams that were carrying 40, 50 players, right? So let's say you have every D1 school takes 10 kids. That's 3,300 spots.
Right.
Now, are they all in the same year going to take max recruiting? No.
Right.
So, but let's use that as a standard, right? So then you look at internationals make up it's always been between like 450 and 550.
Is that on the women's side?
Yes.
Okay.
So in D1.
Okay.
So now I'm not saying there aren't, but that's been kind of the number. It was 536 and 491 and 412 or 512. So it's always been kind of in and around that. So now that 3,300 goes to 2,800, right? There are 2,500 girls in the ECNL.
Exactly.
There are 3,400 in the RL. There are 1,800 in the GA. So,
is that per age group or is that per club? Like
that's an average if you took the number of teams and had 18 kids. Some kids have 24 kids on a roster.
Exactly. Well,
and
the 07s, the 07 ECNL do.
Yeah, and again, we've learned that as you get into that senior year, it's tough, because once kids become committed, when you have 10 kids committed and 5 that aren't, and you want to go to a showcase that you're actually going to see college coaches, and it's in Texas or it's in Florida, those kids go, yeah, I'm committed. I don't need to go there. I don't want to go there. So what we did is we kind of bumped those rosters up and also added opportunity for other kids. There are kids that, may have come in for their senior year and gotten recruited.
Yep.
That wherever they were would not have been. So it's twofold. So it's helping the numbers, and it's helping more kids get college recruited. So like my teams I've had on my 04s and my 2003s, I had 18. And it was 7 of 18, right, that were committed, right? And then the 04s and 06s, I had 24, 25, 24. Now that has some to do with trap players as well, which is another,
What's going on with that? Is that happening? Is the age change happening?
Well, U.S. Soccer said that it was going to be a league decision in a year and a half. So
that's why U.S. Soccer is so bad when it comes to youth. They just give it up to the leagues. They're like, well, we don't want to have to make a decision.
From what I've heard, MLS doesn't want to do it.
Of course they don't.
And ECNL does.
Yep.
And the problem that you're going to have is, who is U.S. Soccer going to take off? If they choose, one of those is going to pull away. You can't do that.
I hate U.S. Soccer with a passion.
Yeah.
Why not go not birth year? Why not go graduating year? Then that gets rid of not the old July or July 31st or August 1st to July 31st. Not that. Graduating year, because you're going to get holdbacks.
You're going to get kids with mustaches in kindergarten.
Yeah. Andy Reid.
No, I mean, I think there's always, no matter what it is, right? Like, if you don't go, let's say you don't go to trap, or let's say you have trap players. You look at a huge club like Real Colorado or a PDA that have 385 teams.
Yeah.
What's their trap player
National,
system?
yeah.
60. I think the one had like 60, 70 trap players. That's 3 teams.
That's
coming
insane.
Back. So if you have 8 teams in an age group and you're bringing back 3 more teams, what do you go to? Like, you can't just add another team into the ECNL. You know what I mean?
That is insane.
So, and then you take that, and then if you don't do that, and you say, okay, let's get rid of trap players, I forget what it was. I was looking it up. 26 of the states, their school year is September 1st cutoff. 26 of them, right? And I think October 1st is some, and I think December 1st is some.
And
I think that's it. I think I don't remember what the exact numbers, but what's that number going to be?
Right.
And then you're going to make it September 1, 2 teams are still going to have trap players.
Right.
So then I heard they were going to do, okay, September 1, but if you're up the year in grades in the school, you stay with that. So you're never going to get it 100% correct.
It's true.
And it was a nightmare the first time it happened when it switched. But at the end of the day, it's, I just hope that whatever choice is made across the country, whatever league makes their choice, I think that a lot of us have been through it before, right? And I think now with maybe like a year and a half preparation, I hope there's some transition. Now, before, when it changed, kids missed a year.
Yeah.
But this time, kids will get an extra year. You think about it that way, right? No one's going to miss years. Kids are going to go back into the same age group.
And the kids that are maybe struggling, they're going to go back and probably dominate some younger age groups. Think about some younger players that you work with that could be, that they're at the bottom of the roster, and then they go down an age group, and they're going to be the top player.
Yeah.
So those parents are like really, really excited. If you were the director of the ECNL, what would you do? Keep it the same or change back?
I think personally, I think grad year is the way that you have to do it if our goal is college placement, right?
Yeah.
Because when you think about it, let's take a trap player in my 08 age group right now. Okay,
Yep.
So let's say a girl is a sophomore. She's sending out the same emails and writing stuff, and they say, we can't talk to you, right? So the whole year, everyone's coming to see my 08s or the 08 age group, right? They're there, but you can't talk to them. And if they're going, okay, well, I got to wait a year for that kid or that kid right next to him, that's about the same ability.
Right.
I can go talk to her right now. And then I don't want to say they get forgotten, but it becomes harder, right?
Yeah.
And then the next year, you have maybe half of the college coaches coming to see your age group because you're all seniors.
Yeah.
So now when you're actually in your recruiting year, you're actually getting half of the college coaches looking at you that looked at the other girls.
Okay.
And then you come back and get half again, right? So everyone's like, oh my God, well, you get 3 years in it. Actually, you get 0 years in it. you get 1 year before it technically, right? And 2 years kind of on the downside of it, because with the RL, you get kind of watched your junior year, and then it's more of like you're signing in spring, summer, and fall. And then kids that, maybe haven't made a choice or, haven't had an opportunity yet, there's some early events and things, and they're usually getting signed by, January or February.
Right.
So, I mean, it's not ideal unless it's your grade level. So for what I feel that I do on a daily basis of trying to, because at the end of the day, my job is college recruitment, right?
Yeah.
Is college placement, I'm trying to get these kids to have the opportunity, not to win, right? It's about building a kid and developing a kid that when you get to recruiting year, a coach goes, yeah, that kid can play my program. So I think sometimes, we get caught up in the winning or whatever, but I think at the end of the day, it's college placement, right? I'm going to be say they're not going to say, hey, how many wins did you have the last 4 years? They're going to say, hey, how many kids did you get placed in college? How many kids did we help to get to that next level? So if we're saying that, if we have these loopholes in between, if a Real Colorado or a PDA has 70, I can't even imagine that. We have like 6 in a year, and it's a nightmare. The world is falling. I can't imagine 4 teams worth.
Ugh.
So, but and again, I don't know that exact number, but it'll be interesting to see.
Do you guys ever have because you were talking about maybe a kid coming in for 1 year and then you're helping them out? So with the new partnership with the Binghamton Flash, or what is it, the Erie Flash, do you ever just bring in a kid just for the showcase, or does that not really happen?
That is kind of new.
Okay.
We have in the past, let's say there's some girls in the ECNL that are committed. Mm-hmm. We have found an opportunity for some RL girls to go up there. We've had girls that are on the RL committed and had girls from the third team, the premier team, come in and get opportunity. We've had the 1 year, and I don't know who figured it out. It might have been like Rob or Eric, but PDA allowed us to put in a second ECNL team, because we had, between the teams, we had like extra players and trap years and everything else between the 07 RL girls that were trapped and stuff like that. So what they ended up doing is they put in a team in the ECNL and then a second team in the ECNL. And then my 06s played in the RL, and that group of girls, I think they went, did they go 1-1-1? I think they went 1-1-1 in the ECNL as RL players. They were 07 RL players and 06 RL players, and it was just an opportunity. It was creating opportunity. Yeah. And it hurt our 06 team that was at that event, which did not help. Which was, I understand the parents' frustration, stuff like that, but the idea of it was opportunity. Yeah. Right? Not taking something from people. It was opportunity, because that 06 ECNL team had girls that were coming back from injury, and they had a high number. I had, 24. Right. So when you make 3 teams of 16, it creates opportunity. Everyone can go. Everyone can play. Yeah. It created some girls that were RL level players that were seen in an ECNL light, and I'll tell you, listen. Whoa. But I'm telling you, college coaches are like, oh yeah. I've had a college coach say to me, with one of my trap players, if she makes the ECNL team a year down, we'll recruit her. But we're not recruiting her here. Listen, if you've heard some of the college coaching stories I could tell you about doing this process, it's mind-boggling. And that's what drives me crazy too, is if I hear this again, Flash loves really fast, strong girls and athletes. So that's not the case. What is our first team comprised of? We are trying to get those girls D1 opportunities, right? You're not saying, I'm going to put my ECNL team and I want them D3 opportunities. You're going to try to get them at the highest level possible, right? So we are making decisions based on what D1 is looking for. Yeah. If they were looking for 5'7" blonde girls that were left-footed, we'd be looking for 5'7" blonde girls that were left-footed. Exactly. Right? So we are tailoring what we're looking for in those tryouts that are, I know people don't really kind of understand what's going on and what we're looking for and how that is, but it's all about building the environment to dictate the end result, right? Mm-hmm. So you have to look for a D1 athlete first, because there are college coaches. I've had college coaches D1 ask me, can I get her 40 time? Has she run the 100? Do you know that? I actually had one girl, no joke, and I tell the story a lot. I had a college coach call me, and he said, I'd like to offer so-and-so a scholarship. I said, oh, where'd you see her play? And he said, I haven't. I said, I'm confused. And he said, my friend coaches this team that you played this past week, and he said she's the fastest girl I've ever seen. I was like, yeah, she's lightning fast. He's like, yeah, we'd like to offer a scholarship.
Sight unseen.
Sight unseen, because his friend said she was lightning fast. So again, speed kills. Absolutely. Could you throw money at a kid like that and say, hey, listen, get me one breakaway a game and result in the goal, right? So I think people get mad at us. They're like, well, you didn't pick Mike. Well, it's because this team is tailored around what D1 is looking for, right? So the second team, a couple of years ago was like, can we get them D3 opportunities? Well, now when you look at our rosters, and that's why I keep saying every year it's getting better and better. Mm-hmm. If you look at the athletes that you have, like my 2008 team, I have like 9 girls that could probably compete in sectionals in the 100, right?
Yes.
And you're like, it's just taking that, and now that's why we're getting D1 opportunity from girls in the second team. We're getting, some better athletes, and I hate to say it like that, but the D1 coach is not even going to look at you if you don't have X,
exactly.
Y. It's like, and people are like, well, you chose her because she was fast. Okay, you're starting a basketball team. You're a high school coach looking at an 8th grade basketball team.
Yeah.
There's a 5'1" kid that's unbelievable, shooting threes, can dribble, and then there's a 7-foot kid sitting and watching. You're going to go talk to the kid that's 7 foot sitting and watching. He's never touched a basketball, but that I guarantee you, every single guy or girl that is going to start a basketball team is going to go talk to that kid. They're going to ignore the kid that spent the last 10 years doing it.
Yep.
And is really good. So that's when Rob and I with the RL.
So true.
We were like, so what are we missing? Because these kids are not technically moving back up, right? So how can we? So if they become dropped from the first team and go to the second team,
yeah.
The goal is to push those kids back up, and if they become athletic enough, right? And what happens is the kid gets cut at 12, and they go, oh, it's over, I'm done, and gives up, right? I'll give you a great example. When I was at Empire, I was coaching 2005s.
Okay.
And I was trying to beg a bunch of girls to come over. Okay. Mm-hmm. Izzy Schmidt was one of them.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Gianna was another.
Tuz, yeah.
And I was, it was kind of the struggling age group, and I was trying to get as many kids as I could to get in there. And you look at G, and she was on the second team, and she just kept working and working and working. She was a hardworking kid. She just kept putting her head down, and she became ridiculously athletic, as we all know.
Yeah.
Right? And she went up to the ECNL team, and now she's at Kentucky, right? So the fact of the matter is it's kind of the, the self-fulfilling prophecy. I get cut at 12, 13, 14, and woe is me, I don't have a chance anymore. I give up. And then all of a sudden, you become as athletic as that kid, but you gave up. If you didn't give up and you kept pushing and fighting and battling and fighting for that, and all of a sudden you got as athletic as that person that beat you out 2 years ago,
right? Maybe
you take that kid's spot. So it becomes that we don't move up. Well, are you doing the same things you used to do? Are you doing the things that kid is doing? That kid's training 3 days a week in the gym. That kid is doing extra touches 5 days a week. You're doing nothing anymore because you're mad. And it's like, if you keep putting in the work and keep doing it, and that's why I brag about my 06s a lot, is I think 18, so of the 18 girls that were kind of on the roster the last year, 13 of them were the original girls I took over 4 years before.
Okay.
And they were not the best athletes. They were solid soccer players that had the skill. We had some athletes, some kids that were skilled, and
right.
And I just asked them, and I asked a ton out of them. I asked them to play a very difficult style with the ball, and I asked them to take a very demanding style without the ball. And every day they just came to work. They didn't know any better. They put their head down. They listened to what I said. They, complain sometimes, and but they just worked. They did it over the summer. They did it on their own. I gave them homework to do, and they did the homework, and they just came and battled and fought. And we went from, I think we were 1-14, 1-15 my first year with them, and I think we were 25-3 during recruiting year, and going and beating teams like GSA. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't because all of a sudden the whole team, 18 of them, became ridiculously athletic. It was because they learned the game and played the game. And when you have the ball, you're not a athletic liability, right? Because you can let the ball do the work if you know what you're doing, right? The defensive liability basically is the focus of a lot of, D1, oh my God, well, if she gets stuck one-on-one, we're dead, right? So... But if you possess the ball well enough and let the ball do the work and all those kind of things, and defensively, is it a liability? Sometimes, yes. But like that team just kept working and working and working and didn't know any better. And at the end of the day, they turned out to be a tremendous team of soccer players.
What was the style on the ball? Just ball movement?
So there's no position when we have it.
Love it.
So everything is small. And you're trying to kind of bait opponents, but, the idea is we are trying to create numerical advantages, whether it's in the right corner, whether it's in the, in front of the goal in the 18. Yeah. How can you create those? So I gave my kids autonomy to move wherever. So and my outside backs are really good at this, but sometimes they would tuck in and both play a 6. So we played a 4-3-3, and they would both play a 6. Yeah. So we'd have 5 in the middle against the other team's 3. Mm-hmm. And the 3 forwards were like, oh my God, it's 3 on only the back 2. Mm-hmm. And we slip one pass and we're now, outplying you in the midfield. I would have, wingers, the 7 or the 11 check in, and a 10 would replace them wide. You have your 9 become a false 9 for a little bit. Maybe your 10s go. Mm-hmm. And almost you have 2 center forwards at that point. It was kind of freedom of movement and freedom of play. I even had one guy on one team asked what formation I was playing at the end of the game. He said, I couldn't help my girls. I had no idea what formation your team was playing. But obviously for me, the result of what formation you're playing is defensively, right? Like when we have the ball, I don't want you thinking of yourself as a right wing. I want you thinking, how can I go add in to be a better number, right? Because this game's about space, relationship, and time, right? So you have what space is available or not available. What time do I have to get there? And then the relationship. What is my relationship to the defender, and what's the relationship to my other player? So can I create numerical advantages? Maybe it's staying wide. I would have that 6, literally it would be a throw-in, my left back would have it, and that 6 would go underneath, and my 2 10s and my 6 would get out and run it off, and those 3 center mids go with them, and then she becomes available underneath, right? Sometimes that would switch into 3 in the back, mm-hmm. and you're going to a 3-4-3 at times. It would be kind of, it was whatever the game asked for.
Yeah.
There are times maybe the center backs stepped in. So they became, I asked them to take a lot of risks in training, and the joke is, I would say, listen, I can't coach you standing still. I have no idea what you're thinking. Do you get it? Do you not get it? Run off the field and go to the bathroom. Just do it. Because here's the thing. We're going to find out real fast. Is that girl going to follow you off the bathroom? Is she going to think you're crazy? What's going on? And the girls joked around that the last practice, they were all going to run off the field to go to the bathroom. But the understanding of your movement and what it creates is the opportunities that we're trying to. So I feel that no matter how athletic you are, in possession, we should be able to play with anyone.
Yeah.
Out of possession becomes and I am a very man-marking person.
Okay.
Because I can't tell you how often I used to work in zones and everyone blames everyone else. And also kids dog it because they can blame it on someone, right?
Right.
So it was very man-marking. If I play a 4-3-3 against a 4-3-3, my center back is the only girl free. Everyone else is man-marking.
Right.
My one center back marks. My other 2 outside backs mark. My 3 mark the 3 in the middle. So if that means they're playing 2 10s, you have to drop to 2 6s. My left wing follows that girl. She goes all the way to the corner.
Yeah.
And the girl's like, oh, I'm a forward. You expect me to chase her 70 yards?
Yep.
Well, she's making that run, and then she's running 70 yards back. So you better be able to do the same. So, I've been taught to at times, like, it's so demanding defensively. You're chasing a kid everywhere.
Yeah.
It's so hard to break down a man defending. If you have good leverage and you understand where that girl's trying to go, and you are right on them, that stinks. Zone sometimes, I love playing against zone sometimes. You just find those little pockets and bing, bing, bing,
gaps that you could just run all day through.
And it's easy.
You have to communicate way more in a zone formation.
And everyone,
these kids don't.
And all of a sudden a goal scored and everyone's pointing at everyone else.
Yep.
And no one wants to take responsibility. And then you can say, okay, well, here are the 4 places that it broke down. And everyone's like, well, it wasn't me. Man marking is real simple. I know that girl scored. Number 6 just scored.
Yeah.
I'm saying, hey, Chasen, who are you marking again? 6? Okay, well, that's your fault. You got to work harder. You got to be better. You have to be in a better position. Like, if you're not as fast as she is, can you put yourself in a better position?
Yeah.
We know where our help is with that girl in the center back, right? Can our one center back bump up and she bumps? So we had kind of like understanding of where we would slide and move if something broke down and who had to cover.
Right.
And that was one thing that was really key because I also love changing formation, understanding, Ohio Premier. I always joke around about Ohio Premier. They were 6 and they had to have their outside backs go.
Yeah.
And they were 18 and their outside, they had to attack out of the outside backs. That's a club policy.
Yeah.
So I think it was the first year, maybe it was the second year with the 06s. And again, the thing that I loved about Rosie was she was kind of like a coach on the field. She knew what I was trying to get across because she watched soccer. She knew soccer. Mm-hmm. So as the 6, she was kind of the decision maker, right? So we would play a 4-3-3 and our wings would let the back go. And then what would happen was as that back got all the way up the field,
they'd lose possession.
Rosie would drop back as the 6 or as the center back as the 6, and we'd go to a 5 back.
Yeah.
And we'd bump out across, and when you steal it, now you're going 3-on-3.
Now they're gone.
Right?
Yep.
Now if they're sending both backs, now you're going 3-on-2.
Yep.
And I remember the first time the one girl on our team we would switch that into a 4-4-2 with the diamond in the middle with 2 up front, so it was 2-on-2. And then my famous when we had to get a result out of Cleveland Force and Cleveland Internationals the last weekend to get to playoffs. People call it the Christmas tree, but I played a 4-5-1 with 5 center midfielders. I had 3 6s, 2 10s. My 2 10s were actually my wing forwards. So all we did is we and loss of possession. We had 5 in the middle, and whoever the outside 6 was, so the left 6, if the right back came, the outside 6 would go. Yep. So we kept that breakdown centrally. The only way you're getting it is by going back and all the way around or hitting a diagonal or a ball across. So we mucked up the middle basically against 2 very, very athletic and very good soccer teams. Yeah. And kept the backs were like, listen, everything has to stay in front of us. It can't be over us. So they would drop kind of to give space, even if it got to their feet, because we had numbers, right? We could double this 6 down on the left back. We could double this 6 down on the to the right back, and this 6 could double down onto the center forward. So we could double everywhere this way. Yeah. But if you get beat over the top, we have no help. And then what we would do is right when we would play, the girl that was a hold-up center forward, she was unbelievable at holding a ball. And some of my wingers were really fast. So what we would do is right when you get it, you are pinging it to Gabby at center forward. Uh-huh. And my 2 forwards are gone. And her job was to lay it to those 3 6s that are now filling. And we're just getting breakaway.
Absolutely.
And we beat Cleveland Force 1-0. And it was the first time they had lost in, I think, 3 years in our conference. And then we ended up tying internationals. And if we had beat them, we scored with, it was 3-3. We scored with, I think, 30 seconds left to go up 4-3. We were screaming, yelling, hollering, running around. And then they literally, the ref said, basically off the kickoff, it's done. They kicked it in our zone. We just kind of trapped it and held it. And the time just kept going. We're like, blow the whistle, basically. The girl stole it, turned around, just hit up a shot from 30 out, and went right in the upper 90. So we tied them. But the idea of kind of the counter press, you have to have kids that can be able to do that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's a lot of, and then people
so
are like,
big in the game right now.
well, but you look now and it's like, to talk about development of players, my kids can do that now, right?
Right.
Like they understand those systems of play and everything else. So if they go and are asked a very thought-provoking play in college, they can go do it. Mm-hmm. Anyone can listen. This is what we're gonna do. We're gonna sit back, kick it long, and go counter. I mean, that's pretty.
You're not gonna. Yeah.
If I do that my whole youth career, and then you ask to solve a problem, you go, okay, coach, I'm gonna sit this game out because we're, and some it's game by game. Some games you're playing a weaker team and you have to possess the ball and you're looking to attack in different zones. And against better teams, maybe you do sit back, right? Let's say UB runs into, they go and play Oregon that one year or Pitt. Can we be more condensed? Can we take away space and can we counter versus a team that's weaker that they can, carry more of that possession and look to attack in different ways? So you have to have the ability to play both. And I think a lot of times we look at, you got to win. Even college recruiting. I tell my girls, I don't care if we win at these showcases. A college coach is going to be there for 10 minutes. I've never been asked, what's the score? Hey, you guys up or down? No. They come, they say, 19 reached out to me. Let me see her for 10 minutes.
Yep.
No, that girl can't play for me.
And then
they
leave.
Yeah. Or, yep, that girl can play for me. Well, if you're playing kick and run and booting at 70 yards and chasing after it, what are they watching? What choice are they making? And I think that's what happens. Oh, my God, we lost 3 games at a showcase. Well, that's funny because I just got 70 calls about you girls.
Exactly.
Versus maybe we won all of them 1-0 and I get no phone calls. So it's just, I think there's a lot of the understanding of what needs to be done versus, it's just like a lot of, I guess it's Americans, but games. We want to play games. Can we get 60 games? Can we get 40 games? Can we get 50? Listen. We need to train, and I pose a question to people, and they die laughing, but if I asked you, would you send your daughter or son to a school that took a test every day? Oh, my God, no, that's crazy. Well, you want to play 100 games?
Exactly.
No, the whole process is learning for a week or two and then taking a test. Exactly. Learning for 2 or 3 weeks and then taking it. Like, that's what this game should be about, right? It's the same process.
I mean, Real Madrid, they have a training to game ratio of 8-1. And that's per week. And it's like, how do they do that? Well, they do 2-a-days, and then they train for 2-a-days, and then they still have 2 days off, and then they have 1 game on the weekend. And that's where we, and a lot of our parents, they want 3 training sessions, and they want 3 games. Look at the kids that do ECNL, the 8th graders that do ECNL, and they do high school at the same time. They're training 8 times, but they also have like 5 games.
And some of them play for their travel clubs as well. Local travel clubs. Now you're up to, and burnout and everything else is
36 games.
It's crazy.
That's how 36 games a year is proven to be, that's the threshold of development. And anything more than that, you don't need more than 36 games.
And I think it was, there's a group that did a study, and it was a combination of like athletic scientists, I'll say, with a group of like education. Then they say it was like 12 or 16. You need 12 or 16 repetitive learning sessions to put out your best output, right? So whether it's in a classroom or on a field,
right?
I think it was between 12 or 16 to have your maximum grasp of knowledge to apply to a task.
Right.
So, but, it's game. Can we get more games? Can I get 7 games? Can I get 12 games? Can I get... And the environment and the training is the thing that's so important. Now, is our games important? Yeah, because we got to be able to also take what we're learning and put it to task.
Right.
But I don't, like, my favorite time is right when, like, kind of December 1st hits through March, and it's just training.
Because that's where all the improvement happens. Because you're a different team. I mean, our high school girls are in the fall, but you're a different team from November to April. A completely different team.
and it's all about grasping ideas.
Going back to college recruiting, if you were to rank being seen in person, ID camps, highlight reels, where would you rank what's most important?
You got to get the coach's attention, right? So like highlight reels are great attention getters, right?
Okay.
So we learned this a lot during COVID is I try to have my girls, when they write an email, it's got to have something about the school that's personable and something about the team, the soccer side, right? So I said, you need to like incorporate both. So if a college coach looks at it and is like, this has been written to 100 different coaches, they're not going to even get to the highlight reel at the bottom, right?
Exactly.
Versus if they say, hey, listen, your nursing program is top notch. You guys have placed in, Forbes top 100. Also, your soccer team has gotten better year after year, and I'd like to come in and help you get to the next. Like they are investing time in you. You better invest time in them.
Exactly. There's so many times where a kid will show me an email that they get, and I go, that's a generic email. And they're like, yeah, I thought so. If they send generic emails, don't you think they're going to be able to pick one out of a lineup?
Yeah, and there's a great story. There's a couple of kids when I was on the boys' side from Allegheny, and I was getting on them because it was coming up to the kind of recruiting year, and I was like, you guys haven't been emailing. You're not. So we get copied in when they use sports recruits, if you send an email. So I have my next team after that, and all of a sudden my phone at Salem's bzz, 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 bzz. I'm like, what is going on? And I get home, and it says so-and-so has sent 71 emails, right? So this is the best part. I get a call the next day from this D2 coach, and he said, are you the coach of so-and-so? And I was like, yeah, why? He's like, well, next time have him do his homework before he wastes his time and says an email to me, and look at my roster. I look at the roster. There's not one American kid on it. Not one. It was all 40 kids were foreign. So I was like, dude, you're killing me. First of all, I knew you sent 71 in a row. He said I had an hour and 15-minute drive back to Allegheny. I just hit send to whoever, So someone looked at my, whatever. I don't know what he chose it from, but it was just hilarious. It's like you can't not invest time in them and then in turn say, hey, I want you to come watch me play. Right. So for me, the highlight reel with a good email is the attention getter, is the initiator, right? You got to get their attention first.
Okay.
If you not, how are you going to get them to come to your game?
Exactly.
So then once you get them at the game, that's the most important in those moments and that pressure when they're standing right next to you and they're there. Can you perform up to task against a kid of your equivalent ability at the same level as you, right? Mm-hmm. And then obviously for me, ID camps are like the wrap up, right? So I always tell my kids, like I've helped with ID camps before. And I've seen hey, these are the 5 girls that are our recruits that we're looking at. Mm-hmm. Make sure they're by us. Make sure they're training on the field by where we're stationed, right? Mm-hmm. Make sure we set them up against really good competition, right? We don't want them at playing with X, Y, or Z, whatever. Mm-hmm. I didn't even know the other 75 kids that were at the group. So for me, it's if you do not have meaningful back and forth, you do not go. If they send you an email that said, I saw you this weekend, love the way you played, and you weren't at an event that weekend, if they didn't specifically say something about, even write them an email back, what did you like about my play this week, that brings it to see what that is. Yeah. And then once that meaningful back and forth, then you can spend the time and the money and the effort. I've had some girls spend $5,000-$6,000 going to ID camps. And for me,
every single one, it's like, what are we doing?
But they don't know any better. They're young and they think it's an opportunity. And listen, throughout all of my years, I think there have been 3 girls that I've known that have gotten opportunity from an ID camp.
From an ID camp,
exactly. And my question was not necessarily. I guess my question was, if you had done it the other way, if you had written an email, if you had them come see you play, would that same opportunity have come? Do you know what I mean? Did you even need the ID camp? Was it just that weekend that they saw you and then it drew their attention to you? Do you know what I mean? Right. So, like, I think there's some back and forth that has to go on for you to present yourself in that way. Not too many kids go and just are like, oh, yeah, that kid's a stud. Yeah, let's sign her. We've never heard of her. We've never seen her, never got an email. So I think there has to be some kind of reciprocating back and forth. And again, maybe there are a ton of kids out there that do get that opportunity. I haven't seen it. So for me, it would be highlight is about an email is about attention. You seal the deal really with play in front, and then you kind of that's your meat and potatoes is the play when they're watching you, and then the ID clinic is kind of like the cherry on top, the wrapping of everything up,
right?
Where they can manipulate who you are and what you are in their setting.
Yeah. How often are you involved with the coaches? Like, how often do they reach out to you to get your opinion? Or
it depends.
And how much are you willing to do? I worked with a guy, one of the top coaches in Michigan. He's an ECNL coach, and he would sometimes go to players and say, "Hey, I'm not gonna help you much, because if you screw me over, that coach is never gonna talk to me again."
So some coaches want to talk to you, some want nothing to do to you. I can tell you there's one coach who I'm done with it, but for 4 or 5 years I have made phone calls to him and sent emails to him and had players interested there, and there is absolutely zero reciprocation. There is no phone call back, no decency of an email. And for me, it's a two-way street, right? I'm going to try to help you if you are willing to have that conversation, because what some of the college coaches I don't think really understand is we're here in perpetuity, right? We're going to have another kid in 2 years that's good. And if I say, hey, listen, let's be done with that school, and I don't start putting that school on the list for kids,
exactly,
it's going to affect the ability for that growth. And that's where I think, and I'll give you, I guess this is a good example. So Casey Durkat is a very close friend of mine.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So I think when talking with him specifically is the way people look at a school is based on who goes there, right?
Okay. Yeah.
So the question was, hey, UB, can you guys come recruit and look at our RL girls? And I think the idea is, and this was never said out loud, but here's the thing. If I want the top 5 ECNL girls and I want to talk to them and I want to get into a room with them, if I bring an RL kid in there, you think that kid's going to sit down and talk with me?
No.
But here's the thing. Let's say I bring a kid from Empire SDA. Is that going to have the same thought process for an ECNL kid? No, because they're kind of outside the area. They're not really. They don't equate them with being lower than them at that moment, right? So for me, I think sometimes in these situations, there's politics, there's location, there's some college coaches think, well, they're going to come to us because they're from here, right? Some other guys are like, hey, am I going to recruit that kid? Because if not, it might affect another recruit I have in 2 years, right? So like some are very aware of it and some aren't, right? So, Casey's like, oh, send them to an ID camp. Okay, well, listen, because, it's going to look, I'm telling you, I think that's why it is. It's going to look bad.
Yeah.
And we don't maybe want to say that, but I think it will. If I'm the second best kid on ECNL, I'm like, oh my God, they signed 2 of our RL kids last year. It just as walk-ons.
Right.
But am I going to go to that school? Probably not, because then I'm going to I'm going to the same place an RL kid is. Right. And I think sometimes that's the mentality. And so some of these college coaches, some of them that one guy that never talks to me, I think he thinks because he's in a 3-hour radius that, your kid is going to come anyway. Right. And for me, it's like, now do I say no and take that off? But it's a good school. But, there you go. It's the same principle, right? So it's like, crap, like, do I talk this kid off or not? And then when you talk to them, I'm very honest, right? It's about strengths and weaknesses and what you're looking for. I'm never going to lie and say the kid's the greatest kid in the world, right? I'm going to say, here are their 2 or 3 biggest strengths, and here's one of their weaknesses. And you can be creative about the weakness that they can read between the line in some situation, right? Sometimes, they have good speed over a long distance, but not necessarily a short distance. And then you can, I'm not saying the kid's slow, they're not quick, but you're kind of giving them an idea. Or, there's different things that, so maybe a kid's really good at one thing and you're really, what's a downfall? Well, maybe they don't, it can be a good thing and a bad thing. They don't want to come off the field and they get super annoyed when they're off the field. Well, that's also competitiveness, right? So you can look at that as maybe a strength and a weakness, right? So it's a manipulation in that kind of way, but I'm never gonna talk to a college coach. I'm never gonna call Burke or, Casey when they were say, hey, my kid can start for you. Right. I'm never gonna lie. I'm saying, listen, this kid could be a great player for you. They're from Buffalo. Their parent went to UB maybe. Mm-hmm. They worked their tail off. They can be number 28 on your roster. You don't owe them anything. They're just going to come in and work. They're going to get a great education. They're a great kid, a great family. But at the end of the day, it's reciprocal, right? So for me, there are some coaches I talk to a lot. Some coaches want that help and need that help.
Yeah, and they want the advice.
And some you couldn't get a hold of if you walked into their office. Right. They disappear.
How out of all those kids that you've had from the 2s, 3s, 6s, and I mean the 8s aren't there yet, but how many reach out to you for just normal feedback or asking about another kid because I think that your opinion's valued, right? How do they ever call you about a kid from another team or a kid from an ECNL team that you might not even coach?
Yeah.
Okay. Just checking.
I get some phone calls.
Right.
Hey, this kid's coming up. We heard good things about her. Can you let us know what's going on with her? Again, I'm always honest. I'm like, hey, listen, I know for a fact that kid's already taught to Notre Dame, Kentucky, and this.
And you're straight up honest with that.
Yeah. I always tell people I don't have time to sugarcoat things.
Right.
I'm not gonna tell your daughter she's the greatest thing in the world and she's going to play for Florida State. Right. It's not happening. I don't have time in my life. I don't have time. If I'm telling you a lie, it's not helping you, it's not helping me.
Right.
I'd rather you cry about it for 5 minutes, an hour, and get over it, and then we can focus on rowing the boat in the same direction.
Right.
There's some college coaches that reach out. If I see them at events, they'll say, hey, listen, we just saw this kid and this kid. What do you know about their family? What do you know about this? Just good. I mean, there are probably, I would say, 15 to 20 guys in the college coaching world that I know through soccer of some way or the other.
Right.
And, they pick my brain sometimes, and sometimes they agree with it, sometimes they don't.
Have you ever thought about getting into college coaching? Dude, it's crazy. It's crazy how much... I mean, if you're really going after it and you're really trying to get a big head coaching job, you're moving a lot. I look at Casey, right?
There's no stability.
UB, Michigan State, to Vanderbilt, but he seems to have a good thing at Vanderbilt going on, right?
Yeah, he loves it.
Yeah,
loves it.
Nashville, man.
And his wife works remote, so.
Oh, perfect.
They're loving life.
How did he like Michigan State?
Loved it.
Yeah.
Do you know that guy's story?
Hostler?
Yeah.
A little bit. He was at Grand Valley.
Yeah.
And then
turned the program around.
Well, turned Michigan State around. Grand Valley was already good.
Well, they were solid, but
they had Deanne. They had the Iowa coach. They won multiple national titles.
Yeah, and then he
continued it and even built.
I thought they had like a down year or two, and then I thought he came in and just took off winning.
They did, because Deanne took the Iowa job, and then it was like, what happens? Yeah. And then Hostler comes in, wins, I think, 2 national titles, and then he goes and wins, or goes to Michigan State, wins the Big Ten.
I've
last year.
I've heard some unbelievable things about him.
Yeah.
I know Casey talked about his attention to detail, his video sessions. These things are broken down to the macro. These kids know exactly what they need to do and exactly where they're failing as a unit and as a team and as an individual. The preparation for the next team coming in was, like pro level stuff. And the other thing is I've heard he could sell ice to an Eskimo. And I mean, look at his recruiting class the last 3 years. Maybe I'm wrong, but I thought he had like the U.S. national goalkeeper coming in the same year as the Canadian national goalkeeper in the same year, both as freshmen or something like this. It's something crazy,
Jesus.
but his ability to recruit was very good. And I know Casey loved it there, but the opportunity obviously at Vanderbilt was a big deal. So
yeah, for sure.
Not that Michigan State wasn't a big deal, but there's just different opportunities, different leagues, different conferences, different areas of the country, different, different models of school and all that other stuff.
Did you do your college training over the break?
I did not. I didn't do any of my winter stuff.
Yeah, that's what. Yeah, some of the girls were talking about. They were like, "Yeah, man,
I've been doing the winter stuff for like 7 years, and I didn't end up doing it this year, but then I do the Flash stuff." So
right, but you're doing summer stuff,
yeah,
right? Yeah. And where is that? That's at Flash Fields?
Yeah.
Monday, Wednesday, Friday?
Monday, Wednesday, Friday.
When does it start?
It starts, I think it's June 30th. It runs 6 weeks.
8 weeks, 6 weeks?
6 weeks.
I loved that setup. I love how you do that.
It used to be crazy. I've toned it down.
What do you mean?
So it started out with this group of girls. They were 12, and their parents reached out to me about training because I don't advertise. So that's
You're
one
just
thing.
On Facebook,
I just
pretty much?
It's usually word of mouth.
And what is it on Facebook?
Professional soccer performance.
Professional soccer performance.
So it's when I was younger, like 17, 18, 19, and I would put out flyers and everything else, and all of a sudden I would get half were really good soccer players that were serious, and half were it was cheaper than the one person dropped off their kid and said her kids were allergic to the sun. And they had to be and I'm going, and she's like, I got to get to curves, whatever. It was a babysitting service. So I decided what I was going to do when I came back from New York City, when we sat down and met for the first time, is I did that whole summer, I did free training. And I said, anyone of you guys that knows anyone, let them know to come to, reach out to me, and we'll go to Vets Park on Grand Island. We'll do free training. I did free training the whole summer. Mm-hmm. In order to build business back up.
Absolutely.
And people came to me because they wanted me to do it. You know what I mean? Not because they saw a flyer, right? It's because they wanted to do the training. And I had trained kids from Grand Island since I was like 14 or 15. Mm-hmm. But it was just different. I needed to create a business. So when I started this group, a group of parents reached out and said, we have these 12 or 13-year-old girls are very, very good. Would you work with them over the summer? I was like, yeah, I'll train them every day. So it started out I think it was 5 weeks, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, every single day. And I think it was every day. It was every day. And at the end of the 5 or 6 weeks, I'm like, I apologize. I killed your kids. I am so sorry. They're like, no, they want to do it next summer. I was like, maybe I could do a thing out of this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I started the camp the next year, and it was that age group. And I had 6 other kids that joined that group.
Okay.
And then the next year, I think they were in...
What year is this, do you think?
I would say 2011, 2010.
Okay.
And then I made it middle school age. Right. And then I made it high school age because then they moved to 9th grade. So I made it high school age. So it was just worked. It's basically around that.
Group all the way up.
And it worked out to, I had a high school age and a middle school age. And then when I came to Flash, I had high school and middle school. And then the boys side because I was coaching the boys side. So the boys side got really big. Yep. So I split it up, boys and girls, and then had middle school.
Do you do that right now?
Well, I've done that the last 5 years, because then when I switched over to the girls side, I got a ton of girls and I got less boys.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So and then I started a college one maybe 4 or 5 years ago.
Yep.
So I have middle school, and then I had high school boys, high school girls, but then the last couple years I've had, and it's great, but I've had like 12 boys in it, and it's basically East Aurora's high school team. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? I think it's 12 kids. It's been 12 to 13 kids of like East Aurora boys, and listen, they're great. They've gone on and won state. They won states, and they came and it's just kids that want to get better, but it's tough because it's those same kids, and it's not, they can't get away from each other. Then high school, and then they go to camps. But when I first started the whole thing, it was Monday through Friday. Mm-hmm. Tuesday and Thursday
was just running.
It was all strength, conditioning, fitness.
Yeah.
So Monday, Wednesday, Friday was an hour and a half of all play.
Right.
And then I had parachutes, and I have the pull cord. And a lot of these kids at that level, they were high school, and they were very good players at club, and they were going to see a trainer or whatever. And, some of those trainers were like, oh, yeah, that guy has no idea what he's doing, whatever. And I was like, whatever. I'm not going to argue this and fight back and forth and do whatever. So I just took out the Tuesday, Thursday, and those kids kind of would do that on their own. So, but yeah, it used to be, and at 1 year, I think I moved it up. I think it was 2 hours or 2.5 hours, Monday through Friday.
That was recent.
No, I think I switched down to an hour and a half, maybe about.
What are you doing now?
4 or 5 years, hour and a half. Yeah. It's just tough.
And you're doing 3 age groups?
Yes, middle school, high school, and college. So now high school boys and girls are together.
Got it. And it's limited to 30 players.
spots. Yeah.
And how are your bookings?
I think I have 20
for the middle school.
I think high school one right now. I think I have 21 or 22.
Okay.
College, I have about 14 or 15. I think. I have to look back at the numbers because it's a huge influx right away. Like right when I put it out, like 48 hours, people are in. Middle school, I think I have 14 or 15.
You posted that like last week.
I always do it in like mid-January because I feel like there was a time where I would have people that asked to pay for halftime because they were going to Buff State one for a week or UB one for a week and they usually put their stuff in like February, March.
Right.
So I just try to get it out early enough because it's just trying to get the kids that want to be there.
I've gotten to the point where I know the players that train with you, and when they book sessions with us throughout the summer, I'm like, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, wait, are you going to Matt's?
Yeah.
Okay, let's do a Tuesday or Thursday.
Yeah.
Because I know what you're going to do. Because you're still doing the fitness and stuff at the beginning, right?
Oh, yeah, it's all interval training, yeah.
Yeah, and then it's like first half an hour.
Yeah, it's like
fitness,
it's like
right?
20 minutes of fitness, and it kind of builds through over 6 weeks. And then it's 30 minutes of like skill development.
Yep.
Breaking skills down to kind of the finest form. And then the last 30, 40 minutes is play. Sometimes we'll do 7-on-7 or 11v11 or 3v3 or and then Friday, that's Monday and Wednesday. And then Friday is the hardest fitness of the week because it builds as it goes. And then we do games. So, like, let's say we're doing passing, right? Mm-hmm. We'll do can jam, right, where they kick it across and you have one touch to knock it down to the cone. Or we'll do, we'll do some kind of game that replicates that thing. So, because I think the problem is, I think oftentimes kids just equate training with boredom, right? To get better, and when I was playing in Canada, even so we would do the dumbest games. Mm-hmm. They're like, okay, who can hit the crossbar from midfield, right? And you're working on the ping, right? Like, can you get that? Like, you're playing. You don't even realize you're just playing ridiculous games. Like, you're playing you kick it over the net, you got to land it in the 6-yard box, and that guy's got to try to kick it out of there. You're just like playing. He would toss it over, and at one touch, we call it soccer volleyball.
Yeah,
and you're having so much fun. You're working on your first touch. On the other side, you're working on your reaction to get to that ball. And
you don't even realize it.
And I think kids miss out on that. I used to love soccer golf. There was a kid on Grand Island. I used to play soccer golf. We'd go to Vets Park because it was huge. Mm-hmm. And he was like a teenage kid that all he wanted to do was get better. That's all I just want to get better. I'll spend every day up there. He was a great kid. And we would go play soccer golf for 2-3 hours. We would say, hey, listen, there's the island So like when you're at Vets Park,
Yep.
there's that island and then the parking lot, and you have to chip it onto the island. You have to get it to land. You have to bend it around this tree. There's a tree that has like this, and you have to put it through the V in the tree. Like the craziness in which we came up with it, but I equate passing to golf, right? The more tricks in your bag, the more players you can play to. Some kids are great at passing at 10 yards. If that's not open, what about the other 9 kids out there?
Yeah.
How can you get them a ball? Can you manipulate a ball inside your foot this way, outside your foot? Can you ping it on a line? I like having kids work on using their laces because you can hit a ball on the ground to the laces, but it's the same technique as just hitting the middle of the ball that's 20 yards or 40 yards. And if you really hit through it, you can get it 70. And I can't tell you how many, oftentimes, like even when I used to play, they're like, oh, he's hitting it long, and I'm hitting a ball 10 yards, but I'm hitting it with my laces, and they think it's going long, right? So it's the premise of taking those skills and having fun with them and building them and learning them. And then, I have kids every time, like, even when I'm doing like privates, can we do a game at the end? Yeah, okay, we'll have fun. We'll have a game at the end. And they're learning stuff, and they're competitive, and they want to win, and they tell me they beat me, and, I go, okay, yeah. But the premise is like, this game is supposed to be fun, right? We can get better having fun. You can go mess around, play soccer golf for 2 hours with your friend and get better.
Yeah.
I think sometimes it's just, it's big business now. It's no fun. So the training is the summer hard. It's tough. It is 6 weeks of, you start with fitness because I'm a big believer in
coming in fit. Leaving fit.
Well, the thing is I see kids and you ask them to juggle and they get out of a car and they can juggle 500 times.
Right.
Have them run 10 sprints and they get 7. Because their technique, everything else falls apart. Well, that's what the game is like, right? Exactly. So I don't care how you're going to be in 5 minutes into the game or 10 minutes. When you're exhausted in the 88th minute, can you volley that ball in the 18 out that we need to get out?
What do you look at like at the end of the session?
Yeah, so I always do fitness to start, and then we do the skill reps when they're exhausted, right? And then at the end, we kind of piece it all together and play. And it's meant for people that are serious about soccer that are, and you'll see this on the girls' side especially, they're willing to give up their whole summer to be there.
Yep.
Driving in from an hour and a half away.
Yep.
I had a girl driving in from 2.5, 3 hours away, because that opportunity in the future is there.
Yeah, because then you hit the ground running, whether you're going to college or you're going into high school.
Yeah.
You're hitting the ground running. So.
Some people love it, some people don't. They don't. But
yeah, I think you gotta love it if you're gonna play at a certain level.
I agree. That competitive nature.
All right, let's land this. So Sunday, talk about fun. Sunday, who do you got? Eagles by how many?
I think it's going to be a lower scoring game than people think. I think I'll say 24-20 Eagles.
Okay.
And to be honest with you, I think it's going to be Mahomes is a slow starter.
He always is in the Super Bowl.
And I think we may get up like maybe 17-3, 17-10. And then I think it's kind of going to be a back and forth in the second half. And I think the Eagles will hold it off this time.
He has never had a good first half in a Super Bowl.
Nope.
Fourth quarter, he's unbelievable. If it's away by the fourth quarter, I think to beat the Chiefs, you almost have to. You have to be up. I mean, yeah, he has a history of coming back and whatnot, but what do you think Saquon needs to do?
I don't know
to win.
At this point, if you listen to 90% of these pundits, I don't think the Eagles can win, and I don't think Saquon can run for more than 50 yards. If I see one more thing, 18 playoff games, the Chiefs haven't allowed a 100-yard rusher. You have 25. The last 25 games, they haven't allowed an 80-yard rusher or a 100-yard rusher. And everyone says, okay, we're going to Washington, we got to shut down Saquon. Okay, the Rams, we got to shut down Saquon. He can't do that to us a second. Like, the offensive line is so big and so good, and he is. And you sneeze in the wrong direction, he's gone. So I don't know. I would say he has 120 yards rushing.
That's exactly what I'm thinking. 120.
And I think he has 1 touchdown. I think Hurts maybe has 2, whether 1 throwing, 2 rushing. But I think it'll be around 24-20. maybe 28, 24, somewhere in there. I don't think they're getting into the 30s again this time.
You don't think so?
No. Unless, I will say this, unless there's a couple, if one team turns it over 2 or 3 times, it'll get into the
what
30s.
happened last time.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, because, I mean,
We had,
you guys were
2
blowing
fumbles?
us out. You guys were blowing us out.
Jalen
and
had one. It was run back for a touchdown.
Yeah, and then the one that was called back because of a penalty on the Chiefs or something. We almost had 2 fumbles returned for a touchdown.
Yeah.
I mean, for the Chiefs to win, I think Mahomes has to go crazy. I really think so, and I don't know if he can. I mean, you have a young secondary, but they're good.
Yeah, but we want to run the ball, so that's going to take time, right?
Yep. I think we're going to run the ball,
Well,
or we're going to have ball control.
Vic Fangio is not going to let you throw it over 20 yards anyway.
Exactly.
So you're going to have a lot of I think you guys are going to dink and dunk down the field.
Yep.
And I think we're going to run the ball down your throat.
Death by 1,000 paper
And that's
cuts.
why I think, maybe get a couple stops early, get a couple of scores, and I don't know. I'm excited for it. I just hope the Eagles can win.
I think one of the things is that could hurt the Eagles is if they score too quick, because then we could just go on a methodical 10-yard play or 10-yard drive
against Washington 2 weeks ago.
Oh, is that? Yeah, but we're not going to settle for 3.
18.
We're not going to settle for 3.
18 play drive, and then Saquon went for 60, and the defensive guys were like, "Oh my God, are you kidding me?"
Yeah, and let's go for it on 4th down. Let's go on it for 4th down. Let's go for it on 4th down, and then kick.
I did not have a problem with it.
All right, man.
Okay.
I'm thinking right in the 20s. I'm thinking 27-24 Chiefs.
27-24.
Yeah.
Mahomes
Lots
3
of feet.
touchdown.
No,
passes?
I think no. I'm thinking Mahomes 2 touchdowns. Kareem Hunt.
I don't think you're running the ball. We've given up like 4 rushing touchdowns in the season or something ridiculous like that.
And then it'll probably be Mahomes running.
I think Mahomes is gonna have a rushing touchdown.
And then Worthy. I think Worthy's gonna be
I just hope hope Mahomes doesn't fake this ankle injury again and then run for 50 yards.
Oh, it's broke.
I'm gonna be mad.
Yeah, it's broke right now. All right, man. We did it in an hour and 45. I appreciate you
sorry.
coming, dude.
Yeah, no problem. Anytime.
That's fun.
I hate soccer.